When Jack Hickey came to his senses, he was standing knee-deep in mud. His wife Olive was digging her nails into his arm and was shaking, but silent. He tried to make sense of it all. What had happened? Where was he? He expected to wake up at any minute to find that he had been dreaming and that he was safe in his own bed. But there was a reality to this that could not be dismissed. The rain continued to pour and fog was close around him. Everything was deathly black. The silence was profound, and the mud continued to flow around his legs, attempting to knock him off balance. The awful stench of stale bog was nauseating. It was a smell that would never leave him. Daddy, Daddy. A child's voice shocked Jack out of his stupor. The faint voice came from behind him. Olive's grip tightened on his arm. "It's Joanne," she said in a voice that was barely audible. Jack spun around and peered into the fog and darkness. There, standing on top of the flattened roof, was his little girl, Joanne. She was like a negative in a photographer's darkroom. Her white nightdress and face was splattered with dark mud. She was holding out her arms, and she was whimpering. Jack released his grip on Olive and ran to Joanne. He swept her into his arms and asked, "Where's your brothers and sisters?" The house was gone, he could see that. Olive and Joanne had survived the terrible destruction and were safe for the moment, but the mud was continuing to flow. The entire mountain could come down at any moment. He had to get them out of danger, but where were the rest of his family? "I don't know," Joanne responded. "I saw an opening and I crawled to it." Jack scanned the area through the darkness and called out to the other children. There was no response. He ran back, grabbed Olive and began dragging her and Joanne towards the Farrell house. "What happened?" Olive asked. Jack was now conscious of his surroundings and knew exactly what had happened. "The goddamn mountain came down," he shouted. Well, I was on the Canaveral Peninsula. Actually, my daughter started working in Harbour Breton as a biologist with the aquaculture industry. So I was visiting her, and I was just strolling through the town one day, and I saw this monument and memorial, and of course it was to the lost children of the landslide. And I read a little bit of the information on the storyboards that was there, and did a little more research and realized that very little had been written about that disaster, and decided that it was time for it to be written, and I was the person that was going to do it. As for stories of this type, I really don't go looking for this type of story. The story sort of has to come to me, and that's what happened in this story. This book, the Landslide. It was just there. It presented itself. And my earlier book, the Blackwood Schooner, the same type situation. I didn't go looking for it. It just sort of presented itself to me. And one of these days, I'm sure that something else will present itself to me.